he's running by dudes. He's different. You draft that guy and you don't look back.
About the Crimson Tide's star wide receiver, Jameson Williams. There's a little bit of gray area with this injury that he suffered in the national championship, ACL torn. And now there's some concern that he won't be ready until the beginning of the season. So he's going to miss out on that training camp, getting the rhythm going with his players. What impact do you think that has on his draft position and how he succeeds in the NFL?
Yeah, Brooke, I think this is one of the more intriguing storylines because we're talking about the number one wide receiver in the draft, right? Like throughout the process, throughout the season, this guy emerged as coming from unknown virtually to finishing off as the number one wide receiver. And like you talked about, injuring himself in the national championship game. So initially I thought about, okay, this guy is going to fall, right? He's going to fall maybe to the teens and late 20s. And then I thought about big picture that this is how the rich get richer in the NFL, right? Because a bunch of teams are going to pass up on this guy, and then he's going to rehab his ACL. He's going to come back healthy, and then now the Kansas City Chiefs are going to roll out there with Tyreek Hill and Jameson Williams, and then everybody's going to
Can't happen.
Everybody's going to scratch their head and like, man, how do we let this happen? So I think if you're sitting in the teens or the tens and you need a top wide receiver, you take them. As the medical profession has gotten better over the years, ACLs have gotten less severe on athletes overall. So this is a guy that I expect to fully rehab, come back healthy, and come back a really good football player.
Listen, I always go back to the Tennessee Titans and what they were willing to do with Jeffrey Simmons, where
and they've done this year in and year out, too.
We make a lot of jokes about John Robinson drafting injured players. Well, the success story is certainly Jeffrey Simmons, where he was worth the wait. Every time that we do a mock draft and we slot Jameson Williams to some team in the first round because he deserves to be a first-round pick, we get a lot of feedback about we need a wide receiver that can hit the ground running from day one. Well, first of all, that's rare with healthy players, right? You're asking a rookie receiver to come in and be the difference maker in your passing game from day one. That's kind of tough to do. But when you think about going back to the Titans and Jeffrey Simmons and him being worth the wait, you know what I mean? Like they waited 8-9 weeks for this guy to be able to come in and play. Nobody thought he was going to play at all as a rookie. He winds up getting back on the field and making a big-time impact. And now we look back at that draft class that included some really good defensive tackles like Quinnen Williams and Christian Wilkins and Ed Oliver and Dexter Lawrence. And if you had a chance to redraft them, who's going one?
Right.
Simmons, right? And so if I'm a team, I would hate to pass on Jameson Williams and in 4 years or 3 years look back and say, oh, damn, we should have been willing to be patient because his skill set is unlike anyone in this class, Kyle. I mean, I've talked a lot about the reasons why, but this is, to me, clearly just the most complete receiver, vertical threat. He can run every route. He's good after the catch. He is a dynamic football player that is worth an 8, 9, 10-week period of time where he won't be able to help you, but for the rest of his career, he will.
And that's still a projection, right? Like, John Mechie got hurt not that much earlier than Jameson Williams did. John Mechie was just on the podiums here in Indianapolis, and he said, I'm scheduled to be cleared by June.
Wow.
Okay, and everybody's injury is different, right?
Yeah.
But Keith made the point in advancements in sports medicine and the recoveries for ACLs, there's nothing that has indicated that Jameson Williams had this catastrophic knee injury that's going to completely change the way he moves and plays the game of football. It's just, you're not going to get athletic testing. There's going to be a medical checkup, and he's going to have to pass that checkup in April, too, when you do the rechecks from a medical perspective, because he's going to come into Indianapolis, and they're going to do the physicals, and he's obviously going to be recovering from ACL surgery. So, you know what you're dealing with. Joe, to your point, this is not a one-year investment. This is not a one-year $15 million free agent signing.
Right.
This is a 5, 6, 7, 10-year investment potentially in a player. And if you were to tell me any receiver in the NFL or in this year's NFL draft was going to turn into a 10-year investment, it'd probably be Jameson Williams because he was on a different level than everybody else at the position this year.
Yeah, he is, and I think you have to look at it from, like I said, the other big picture perspective, and that's just the way the NFL is now. It's a passing league, and so the teams that we see make deep playoff runs, they had 3-4 wide receivers. Like in the game, we talked about the one of the best playoff games ever, the Buffalo Bills.
Don't remember it.
They played? I don't remember playing.
Great game. By the way, change the overtime rules. That's the thing.
Change them.
Change
Play 13 seconds. Back to Jameson.
But to my point was that was your fourth wide receiver that made the most noise, right? Like you need 3-4 wide receivers, 3-4 weapons in order to kind of have a option or a position to make it run deep in the playoff run. So I think that you draft this guy, he's at a valuable position, and you need to go get him.
I love the combine and athletic testing as much as anybody out there. But did we need to see Jameson Williams run a 40-yard dash? Do you have any doubt in your mind? It's top percentile speed. Just watch him play. He moves at a different pace. And you want to talk about big play ability. You can't find it like Jameson Williams and any other prospect in this class.
I think Keith makes a good point too, because like football's a game of attrition, right? People get hurt every single week. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you need 3-4 wide receivers to be able to successfully run 11 personnel, which is everybody's favorite personnel grouping in the NFL right now, if Jameson Williams is going to be the guy and you got a bunch of 7th rounders and UDFAs as the rest of your wide receiver core, I got bad news for you. You're not going to be particularly good anyway. So even if Jameson Williams misses the first 2 months of the season, everybody's dealing with injuries, right? You play 500 ball across the first 2 months of the season, and you get Jameson Williams back and he provides the kind of catalyst that Jeffrey Simmons provided the Tennessee Titans. You're going to be playing your best football late in the season as an offense because of that added dynamic that exists there. I understand the concerns about the timing, right? But Jameson, dude's a gazelle. Mm-hmm. He's blowing past deep coverage safeties. They're running split safety coverage, trying to play too deep, eliminate explosive plays at the college level, and he's running by dudes. He's different. You draft that guy and you don't look back.
No, I agree. And the season got longer, too, right? They added another game. And then you look at the Cincinnati Bengals, they were a below 500 team, I want to say, 7-8 weeks into the season. And then, like you said, they got hot at the right time. So you insert Jameson Williams week 7, week 8 at the latest. And that'd be right when it's time to take off, right when your team is getting his rhythm. You can insert this guy. And even if he comes in as your number 3 wide receiver, that might be the best number 3 wide receiver in the league, right? Yeah. So you put this guy in, and I think he comes in at a good time to where your offense can start humming and you start taking that transition or that trajectory into being a top offense.
So how does this go wrong? Right? This goes wrong is if you put all your eggs in that basket. That's the only way it goes wrong. Is if you draft Jameson Williams, you're a team that's expecting to be competitive, and you say, well, we're going to draft Jameson and we're not going to do anything else in the wide receiver position.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's your only risk.
Right.
You need someone to back him up. I think another thing that could happen through this also, if people do let him fall in the draft order, that chip on his shoulder is going to get real tough. And then he's sitting and he's waiting, and when he's ready to go, he is going to go.
Well, and you think about, he was at Ohio State, and he was behind Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, and he transferred to Alabama, and he showcased what he can do, and then he gets hurt, and everybody sleeps on him. He's like, wait a minute, guys. I just showed you what I can do. What is happening? I think that's a great point, Brooke.
Yeah, this one's going to be interesting, and I think teams need to jump on him. And if they were smart, they're going to listen to us scouts over here, at Draft Network. And we'll see where he goes. But I think he is a great pickup for anybody that really wants to make that back-end push, which we saw with the Bengals this year. Look how it worked out for them. So Jameson Williams, a very interesting guy going in the draft this season.